New year, new me. Hello, birdies. That's right. I'm back with more black jewels for you. And you'd best buckle up, bitches, because we're in for a ride. This is the long-awaited finale of Anne Bishop's Black Jewels trilogy, Queen of the Darkness. Well, okay, I say that, but maybe nobody was actually waiting for the review. Whatever, no matter. I am here now and ready to spin you a tale as old as 2000, which was 22 years ago. To every person that just flinched, you're welcome. We last left off on a rather hopeful note. Janelle Sa Diablo, yes, I'm going to keep using that as her surname, even though she technically never took it, fight me, had become the undisputed queen of Eboniscavi, and with it reigned over the entire realm of Kalir as her coven yielded their territories to her. Satan and Lucifer serve on her dark court as the steward and first escort, respectively. Daemon had just made his way out of the Twisted Kingdom and is restored to fragile sanity. Well, it turns out Janelle is just such a fantastic queen that Kalir becomes the world's most sought-after place to live and work. Part of this is that the Dark Court is really, honestly, that good. And part of it is that Dorothy and Hecate are doing their very best to make everywhere else the shittiest thing ever. Like, I can't even dream of thoroughly telling you what these two bitches have been up to, but the two of them have managed to turn Tyrell into a living hell. Queens can do basically whatever they want to the males of their court, from rape, torture, and kill. Now, they're doing this to basically everyone, and Dorothea and Hecate have built a culture in which all of this is fine. Shockingly, it's not actually fine or dandy. Wild, I know. Queen of the Darkness picks up 5 years after the end of the last book. In that time, Kalir has become such a hotspot for immigration that they have to have twice yearly immigration fairs in which hopeful candidates turn up and try to get offered a contract serving a Kalir queen. Why? Because when they were free to move in, they kept doing shit Dorothea and Hecate normalized. And they wanted to cut down on the executions. So the Dark Court decided to work with the Dark Council and have these fairs instead. Dorothea does some dramatic bitch shit and convinces a bunch of lower-ranking Tyrell queens that Bestad Satan is actually the power behind all of this, not the mysterious Queen of Eboniscavi. This is super awkward because Janelle's half-sister Wilhelmina flees to Kalir and is picked up by Lucifer as soon as he knows who she is. Janelle's other relatives make the trip to Kalir to rescue Wilhelmina. Alexandra, their grandmother and the local queen, is also supposed to rescue Janelle, but she low-key hates Janelle for being too quirky as a child and is the one who sent her to Briarwood. So she had been thinking, hopefully, that Janelle has been dead this whole time and is focused on Wilhelmina. Now is a good time to mention that Janelle is 25 and Wilhelmina is 27. So both of them are grown-ass women capable of making their own choices. Suffice to say, giving her granddaughters bodily autonomy is not Alexandra's strong suit. When she and her entourage turn up at Kalir Hall, literally everyone hates them. Even people who don't know exactly what happened to Janelle still know that this family is the fucking worst, and make it obvious that they feel that way. Bestad Satan straight up tells Alexandra he asked Janelle if he could execute them. And she said no. But that if they turn up in hell, he's going to literally shred them. Slowly. Over about 2 years. and he will enjoy every second of it. Another pickup from the fair this year, Daemon and Surreal. Daemon's still a bit shaky and mildly amnesiac about everything that happened 13 years ago, but he gets back to the hall and gets to meet Lucifer's wife and son, who is named after him, and then Witch fixes his mind for good, so works out for him, I guess. Surreal then makes the spectacularly, unintentionally best decision ever. For the first time in her life, she uses her biological father's family name, intended as a jab at her evil grandmother Dorothea. That surname is Diablo. She is informed upon her arrival that she is 1, family, 2, her mother is demon dead and wants to say hi, 3, her new family are insanely powerful and she's going to have to be quick on her feet to manage. Good news, Surreal is a badass and adjusts well. The plot really kicks into high gear when Alexandra's escort attempts to kidnap Wilhelmina by sedating her with gas and an even stronger sedative on top of that. Alexandra thinks he'll be taking her home, but his actual orders are to bring her to Dorothea as a bargaining chip. That ends up not mattering much because Wilhelmina has been adopted by a literal kindred tiger named Dajjal. Dajjal sadly dies during the kidnapping attempt. But he buys enough time for everyone to swoop in and save her. Then the Dark Court decides to let Dajjal's father, Dajjal, handle the execution. And by execution, I mean he mauls him to death like you would expect a very angry magic tiger to do. This whole time, Alexandra's like, Janelle who? That kid? She had no power. She's obviously just Satan's puppet. It's exactly what Dorothea told me. And then this shit happens and she gets summoned to the keep where Janelle meets her as the queen of Eboniscavi. And then she meets Alexandra as Witch. I have to give Anne Bishop incredible props for this scene. Up until now, Witch has been presented as a borderline mythical creature. She's dreams made flesh and has been reincarnated many times, but to slightly different extents. Janelle is the most fully realized and pure version of Witch thus far. When anyone before now had met Witch as Janelle, they've been in joyful awe of her. She's part animal, kindred specifically, and part human. But when people see her and they realize who and what she is, it's like they've met a goddess. They love her. She's everything they wanted for a queen. Except Alexandra. Alexandra meets Witch and tells her she is not Janelle and calls her an it. It's one of the most brutal scenes in any of the books, despite there being no violence, because it just feels so wrong. Witch is supposed to be celebrated, revered, loved. And Alexandra says she's disgusting, a thing, not a person, and certainly not her own granddaughter. It's chilling, and says everything it needs to say about Alexandra and why Witch/Janelle then does the thing she does next. She breaks Alexandra. In the series so far, breaking a witch involved a lot of rape and a lot of torture. It's described as a sort of mind rape experience, and when it happens, a witch is unable to use any jewel and can only do basic craft from then on. Janelle is actually well within her rights based on what Alexandra and her escorts have done to just kill her. But instead, Witch takes Alexandra down to her absolute deepest mental and magical limit, and then just pulls a little bit more until she's completely snapped the link between Alexandra and her power. Physically, unharmed. Mentally, not scarred. But she will never have power again. Satan then kicks her and her entire party the fuck out of Kalir and witch bans them forever. Okay, so I mentioned Daemon's sane, but he's also wearing the consort's ring, meaning he is Janelle's official lover. Except these two dum-dums who are desperately in love and somehow equally stupid about how in love the other one is, haven't done the nasty yet, and in fact haven't even kissed yet, and it's like, hello? God bless Surreal. She hunts Janelle down and they have a talk about sex, and she points out that Daemon is also basically a virgin since he's never had sex, technically, if we're going by the traditional definition. And damn it, those two virgins figure it out and then start banging so enthusiastically that best dad Satan has to tell everyone to stay out of the house for a few weeks, because even though Daemon put a black jewel shield around the bedroom, Janelle is stronger than the black, and so it has no real effect on her, and nobody has had the courage to inform her of that yet. So yeah, everyone can basically sense them fucking. Often. With great enthusiasm. Oh, and Daemon offers this absolute gem of a line, which proves that this idiot cannot go 3 chapters without saying something that makes me want to bang my head on the desk. He replied, licking the spot on her forehead where the tiny spiral horn would be if they were in the abyss. Oh, things were going so well until you said that. Fortunately, we're taken away from Daemon's point of view and into this setup and scenes of where things get bad. Dorothea and Hecate are up to their bullshit again, and this time the bullshit is the death of people we actually care about. They set up this whole trap where one of the boys from Camp Kalir is murdered in a trap, and so his Queen Carla is poisoned, and she would have died without Janelle and Daemon's help, and even so, the removal of the poison meant she lost the use of her legs. That escalated quickly. We get some excellent examples of Surreal being a fucking badass, and Falinor, who is a friend of Lucifer, being a misogynist when one of the kin tigers brings them the head of a man that burned a village to the ground. Falinor thinks that she's gone off to puke, and then she brings back a bucket and asks if he intends to carry the head around in his hands. And then she takes it from his hands and puts it in the bucket. And then she asks him where it's supposed to go. Falinor, my dude, she was an assassin. She's seen and done way worse than a severed head. I'm kind of going to skip over some stuff here because just so much happens in the last third of the book. But basically, everything with Dorothea and Hecate comes to a head when they decide that outright genocide is fine and dandy and start slaughtering basically every territory. At the same time, the time-telling spiders that predict the future with their webs, because reasons, get a premonition, kind of sorts, that Janelle is about to do something that will kill her. And while they can't stop her from doing it, they decide they're going to try and make it so she'll at least survive. We get further confirmation that Janelle is doing something because she tells Daemon, distraught, that she doesn't know how to get rid of Hecate and Dorothea's influence. Daemon suggests killing them, and she blows up at him and tells him that if she uses her full power to kill, she won't just kill them. She'll kill every single blood creature, human and kin. Daemon kind of reels a bit at the knowledge that she is actually that powerful, but then informs her of a way that she could possibly separate out the tainted people from the good people. And she agrees it could work with Daemon's help. Basically, Janelle needs him to buy her time. It takes him, a black jeweled male Black Widow, which we are repeatedly told is super, super powerful, a couple hours to reach the bottom of his full power depth. It takes Janelle 3 days to get to the bottom. Yeah. And in that time, she needs him to create the diversion to end all diversions. So he tells her what he needs to make his next moves convincing, and she sends him off. He tells her he wants to exchange his consort ring for a wedding ring and marry her. She agrees, but Anne Bishop makes sure that we all know that for whatever reason, Janelle clearly does not think this is going to happen. Oh no. The diversion basically works like this. Daemon struts into Dorothea and Hecate's camp in full sadist mode and tells them that he's had enough of the Queen of Ebonascavi and has turned back to his super evil bad boy sadist ways. And they're pumped. They've already captured Lucifer and Satan and tortured them both. This is just a cherry on the top. Surreal comes to help and adds to the overall tricks happening by pretending that Daemon raped her and broke her, but she's not as convincing as she thinks she is, and Lucifer kind of catches on. Daemon takes it all to the next level, first by tricking Lucifer with the very convincing illusions of his wife and son being roasted alive, and then Surreal helps sneak him out of the camp. Thanks, Surreal. Daemon also pretends to rape Satan, which is certainly distracting. He then kills Dorothea and Hecate and takes Satan back to the hall. This entire time, he's excusing himself for the intense psychological trauma he's inflicting on his loved ones because he thinks he's going back to marry Janelle. People around him are realizing something is very wrong, but as they all get to the keep of the hall, nobody dares to even bring it up to him. There's a very emotional scene where all of the demon dead agree to become dead and disappear completely, including Satan's best friend, that friend's son, and his own eldest son. The power released by doing this then boosts Janelle even more. Finally, her witch storm goes into high gear and she does it. She kills everyone with even a touch of the taint of Dorothy and Hecate. This turns out to be a full 60% of the blood in the kin on every plane. Lucifer, Satan, and Daemon all end up in a psychic web and are told that if they cannot catch Janelle, she will die. There are many levels of webs, but she's ripping right through them at a high speed, and ripping through the final one will kill her. So first, Satan tries to catch her, trying to roll her through the webs, and she rips through. Then Lucifer, and then finally Daemon. Against all odds, they've managed to keep her from breaking through the very last web. Daemon takes this to mean they've fully saved her and goes looking for her, only to find her completely gone. He cannot find her, not even with magic. She's just gone, and everyone assumes that she quite simply could not do this final act in a human body without being destroyed. Daemon is heartbroken to the point of losing the desire to live. He visits her garden daily, wondering why she didn't tell him truthfully what she was planning to do. Then, one day, one of the kin implies that she might actually be alive somewhere, but he can't see her yet because of reasons. It takes another stretch of time before Ladavarian, a kin Sheltie, comes to bring him to where the kin have been healing and protecting her. He's excited, but Ladavarian cautions him, explaining that the kin have kept her alive in a healing web, but it's slow going and she is extremely fragile. He takes Daemon to see her, and he's both overjoyed and utterly horrified. She is incredibly wounded. It's obvious that a lot of healing has already happened, but she's still in such a terrible state that he wonders how the kin managed to keep her alive at all. She's thin and scarred and pieced back together, but eventually he joins her, holding her gently and telling her he loves her. The book basically ends here. There's a few little wrap-up notes, but this is where the original trilogy stops. So, thoughts? It's apple cider, don't get excited. I still think the second book is my favorite. It has the shenanigans of Camp Clear, but also the cool flexing of Janelle's power. Plus, Daemon isn't really in it so much. I know that sounds kind of mean, but I just never really became invested in his character, and I found basically every other character's arc more compelling. By the time he's back in this book, the love story just feels a bit cheap and unearned, since they actually don't know each other that well, and even though we're told they're super crazy madly in love, it still felt a bit weird to me. In terms of the series as a whole, I'm a little fonder of it than I was at the start. I'm still not sure I would fully recommend it to anyone unless I knew they had very specific tastes, and despite reading these books about 1,000,000 times over, I'm still not even sure I like it. Book 2 was good. Book 2 was fun. 1 was a bit edgy pulp for me, and 3 was, well, it definitely had high stakes. I'm just not sure the payoff in the end was worth it. I guess I come out of this with a healthy respect for Anne Bishop, if only because the quality of her writing and world building noticeably improved over the trilogy, and knowing how little time passed between each book makes her progress kind of even more impressive. I walked into this wondering what the hell was happening, and walked out with a much clearer understanding of her as a writer. Black Jewels, I tip my hat at thee. It was indeed a wild ride. So, what's next? I'm so glad you asked. See you next time, birdies. I would like to apologize for the lighting in this video. My overhead light, for some reason, is visibly flickering, and I can't get it to stop. And rather than making this entire video a seizure migraine trigger warning, I just decided mood lighting. The number of props I purchased for this video. Was it worth it? Sparkling apple cider in Japan is a little tricky to get, not super cheap. Wine glasses are. Thanks, Daiso. Also, don't buy body harnesses on Amazon. They're just elastic. You live, you learn.